Do you think that top performing workers should be able to bend the rules simply because they're top performers? How's it going? This is your Supply Chain Pro here, and in today's video, we will review why I fired my top performing employee. Now, I have worked in the supply chain industry for over 12 years, and I've seen my share of high performing employees over that time span, and it wasn't all that long ago that I was a top performing hourly employee myself. The facility that I worked at this time had engineered labor standards that were based on a contract with our customer. We had created a performance program based on these engineered standards where meeting our goal meant a 100% productivity score. Anything above the 100% score exceeds the facility's required rates, and most employees at my facility that I managed at that time average around 120%. Some employees are higher while some employees are lower, but overall the team did really well. There was an employee who worked at my facility whose name was Kyle, and Kyle was consistently averaging 140 to 150% on his productivity score. His job was relatively physical, and finding high-quality employees willing to do the physical labor is not always easy. On average, when Kyle was on the clock, he did the work of 1.5 average employees each day. While this is outstanding and commendable, as is with many other top performers, being the best caused the success to go to Kyle's head, and he began thinking himself above others, as well as the company's policies and procedures. Kyle's interactions with his coworkers were extremely poor. He thought himself better than his coworkers, and he would treat them as inferior or with disrespect. So from a team standpoint, although Kyle was pulling the most weight individually, he was causing problems for the other team members in other areas, such as morale and cohesiveness. Kyle's success created confidence in his abilities, and this confidence led to him discrediting management's guidance and our direction. Kyle began trying to come up with his own way to do things, and this was directly breaking the company's standard operating procedures on some tasks. Also, Kyle began questioning and wrestling verbally with his supervisor over how to do certain portions of the job because he thought he knew best and could perform best. This led to many more errors that our quality and our inventory team members had to spend their time to fix, as well as subverted the authority of the supervisor. I began addressing these situations through verbal meetings in which I follow a program that's called Documented Notes, where I will sit down and I'll discuss with an employee what's right and what's wrong when they are showing behavior that does not meet my expectation. Kyle took offense to the fact that I informed him he was not doing something right, and he was basically rejecting my direction at the end of this conversation. As time went on, Kyle continued to make mistakes, he hurt our team morale, and he chose to go down his own path, contrary to the direction set by management. At some point, after a few light discussions in which the Documented Notes program was used, Kyle wasn't getting it, and I submitted the first step in the progressive disciplinary process as a verbal write-up for breaking procedures and subverting the authority of the supervisor. Kyle continued his defiance towards management, and he ended up rejecting all responsibility for the topics of the write-up, fully disagreeing with their validity, and he was doing this out in the open. Kyle did continue his 150% high performance. However, his actions towards the company began to change, where he began to get retaliatory against his coworkers and management. Kyle began filing grievances with human resources by taking something that happened and making up consequences and reporting what he made up to human resources as dangerous or immoral by management and any other employee on the job. One example of this was when the supervisor was sweeping debris along an area that Kyle was working near, just as the supervisor does frequently. Kyle submitted a formal grievance to Human Resources that the supervisor was baiting Kyle into a safety collision with his forklift. The supervisor and I had to later cooperate with Human Resources in this investigation of a potential safety failure and discriminatory management. The reality is that this supervisor does this task frequently with all employees, without discrimination. And in the event of a forklift operator getting close to a pedestrian, the forklift operator and pedestrian are supposed to make eye contact and then communicate intentions regarding who has the right-of-way. Kyle fails to report the required safety steps in this scenario, and he only reports to Human Resources his perceived intent from the supervisor. His goal is simply to get the supervisor in trouble with Human Resources and retaliate against management for writing him up, as well as discredit our authority. It was at this time that I worked for a large corporation that has rules on investigations and retaliation. Investigations are never proven guilty or innocent, but instead the claims are found to be substantiated or unsubstantiated. This is similar to how the United States court system works, finding defendants guilty of a crime or not guilty based on the evidence presented during the trial. It doesn't mean that the defendant didn't do it. It just means there was not enough evidence to prove them guilty of breaking the law. In this scenario, there was not enough evidence found by Human Resources to substantiate Kyle's claim. And in order to encourage a transparent workplace where employees are willing to report potential policy and legal violations to Human Resources, the company had a no retaliation policy. In the event that an employee lies and submits a false accusation or a grievance to Human Resources, there could be no consequences for something that was found to be unsubstantiated. And as this employee's manager, there was no action that I could take when this employee was making up lies about me and my leadership team. I had to just sit through these investigation meetings with Human Resources, telling them the truth, or at least my perspective of what happened, to counter Kyle's made-up grievances. This employee had become increasingly volatile and demeaning to his other coworkers, and I realized at this point that this employee was past the point of saving his job with my employer. I would like to give you a glimpse into the perspective of a manager, where managers sometimes do have a certain amount of discretion on decisions that are under their control. Not every employee who does something wrong deserves to be written up or fired for it. Some employees simply need training or introduction to the correct expectation for them to do it right in the future. Some employees need a little more verbal or social accountability so they know they will be spoken to if they do something wrong again, and they are likely to do it right and avoiding conflict with management in the future. Some employees require the formality and authority of a write-up to understand the significance and the gravity of their actions. And some employees are truly toxic and absolutely need the progressive disciplinary process to be applied. Otherwise, these types of toxic employees will not change their actions to meet the expectations of management. See a previously posted video on the channel discussing the progressive disciplinary process and if employees are unwilling to change or to meet the expectations, that they will eventually reach the end of the process and lose their job. I realized this about Kyle after he submitted multiple grievances, that this was turning into a battle, and he had rejected my counsel and my guidance on what is right and what is wrong at this facility, and this employee was actively attempting to undermine management because he felt resentment for me and my team holding him accountable for his past. In the meantime, Kyle had obtained a safety write-up for failing to respect a pedestrian and give them the right-of-way as he operated his forklift. As expected, he fully disagreed with the validity of the write-up, and he continued to deflect responsibility from himself and make petty grievances to Human Resources against management. A few weeks later, there was a report from the supervisor that one of the structures of the facility had been damaged. Upon investigation, it was observed that Kyle had made a small amount of contact with the facility structure while he was operating his forklift, causing this damage. Minor forklift collisions can be somewhat subjective. What is the difference between a brush, a ding, and a strike? There is an amount of subjectivity on the force of a collision and the consequences to the object that was struck. The facility structure did have minor damage. However, the collision did occur nonetheless. Unintended contact with the forklift, no matter the severity, is still unintended contact. In the event that this employee would have been in good standing, the manager's discretion could be applied to this minor contact situation, and this employee could have received another safety write-up, or maybe a warning, or a documented counseling and retraining on the subject. However, since this employee was not in good standing and he already had 2 write-ups on his record, also he was showing hostility and retaliation towards management, I made the decision that this employee failed to report a collision per our safety policy, and this failure to report, combined with his previous disciplinary actions, resulted in this employee's termination with my company. It is my belief that while it is important to perform our jobs, it's also important to follow the rules, remain safe, and respect your coworkers. Just because you are a top performer doesn't make it okay to neglect other portions of the job. While my facility's performance did decline following the loss of my most productive employee, my facility's safety and employee relations metrics, as well as the overall morale among my team members, increased after this employee was fired. I wanted to personally say thank you for making it to this point of the video. This is the context behind why and how I fired my top performing employee. Comment down below if you have a crazy story related to your job's highest performing employee. Like and subscribe if you found value in the content of this video. This is your Supply Chain Pro, out.